Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. I'm your host, Bud Fields. You know, everybody's had cabin fever. We've been anxious since winter time. We want to get our boats out and put them on the water and get out there and have fun, start fishing, water skiing, boating, just having a great time. But spring, there can be a lot of hazards on the water that a lot of people don't even consider. Springtime, not only are you wanting to get out there, try your boats out to make sure everything's working, but there's a lot of contingencies you got to consider. Spring is notorious, especially with all the runoff of the snow melting. A lot of your reservoirs, they've drained down to winter levels. They're going to start filling them back up, and with all the rains and storms that comes through, you got to really be aware of the water level. Now, I was fishing some bass tournaments in the early spring to where when you come out of the parking lot, you had to drive down the ramp to the water level, maybe 60 or 70 feet down that ramp to where you could back your trailer up to put your boat in the water. There has been several tournaments on different reservoirs that I fished. That was in like April. You didn't have to drive down the ramp at all. The water was so high, it was almost up to the parking lot level. You drive your boat to the water level and turn it around. You didn't have to drive it down that ramp. The water was right there. You just unloaded your boat, parked your trailer, and take off. Now, that's good and bad. That's going to be awful hard on the fishing. It can make fishing extremely difficult. Another thing you got to consider is the water clarity is going to be muddy, heavily stained. There will be very few places that you're going to go on a reservoir that you're going to get into clear water to where you can see rocks. Well, when the water temperature's up that high, you don't have to worry so much about the rocks, but there's going to be a lot of floating debris. Now, you got to consider some of these boats when you're fishing a bass tournament, they're going to be running in speeds 50, 60, 70 mile an hour. But when you're traveling that fast, now bear in mind, there are no brakes on a boat like what we've got on our vehicle. Would you drive your truck or your car down the street in front of your house 50, 60, 70 mile an hour with no brakes? I don't think you would. Even though you can pull your throttle handle back or take your foot off the gas pedal, that boat will start to slow down, but it's still going to glide. It'll glide until all the momentum's gone. So if you're going at that speed, of course, a lot of times, now I wear safety or glasses, so my eyes are fairly protected from the wind, plus I had a big windshield on my bass boat. But some guys, they're not wearing glasses, they have no windshield, and they got all this wind blowing in. It irritates your eyes are going to get watery and blurry, and you're not going to be able to see. There's going to be a lot of debris that was laying around on the ground since that water is raised up and got current. It's going to be floating. I have seen actual trees, like I'm going to just give you some rough estimates, 60, 80, 100-foot trees that was laying like along the bank when that water temperature or that water level raised up, it brought that debris up and it started floating. And when you're running that fast down the waterway and you don't see it, and it sounds like something that big you ought to see, you won't see it until you're right on it. And when you hit that, it can actually throw you out of the boat. It could tear your outboard motor completely off the back of your boat. Some of the smaller boats that has just got these little clamps that clamps on the back of the transom, I have seen those actually flip up, and while it's still running, will actually propel itself into the boat. And now somebody's going to get badly hurt with that prop that's spinning. So always be aware of it. Anytime you've got a motorboat, you should have a life preserver of some kind, PFD, a professional personal floating device. That way, if you should get projected out of the boat, especially these bass boats, if you get thrown overboard, that boat will automatically start going in a right circle. It just go around and around. Why it goes to the right, nobody's ever explained it. Some people will say, well, why won't it go to the left? I cannot tell you. But most of the time, it will go to the right. If you get knocked out of that boat, if you hit an object floating, and you've got your life jacket on. That life jacket's going to keep you from sinking, which you're not going to drown. But the thing about it, with that boat going around in a circle, it can come right back, and there's a good possibility that you might get hit by that boat, and that propeller is still in gear. It's still running. You're going to get severely cut. That's why they demand that you have what they call an active kill switch. It attaches to like your D-ring on your life jacket. It's got a cable that comes up and attaches to your ignition on your boat. If you get thrown out of the boat, it pulls this connector loose and it shuts that motor off instantly. The boat will still glide. The boat will still glide, but it's not going to be propelled by the outboard because it shuts that motor off. So if you're going to be going out there, watch their water levels, watch for any flotation stuff. You're not going to get very many people skiing with the water that high. But once the water level goes down, it's when your ski activity and your ski-doos are going to become more prominent, and you got to share the water with them. But you want to make sure you're wearing your life jacket. You want to make sure you've got a kill switch and that kill switch is working. Anytime you start that up, you should be able to reach over and manually pull that cable, and that will disconnect that connector, and that outboard motor should die instantly. And that will keep you from getting hurt. Now, if you do hit something, a lot of the propellers used to be made out of aluminum. It didn't take much of a hit to knock maybe a lobe off of that prop, and that would set up a very, very rough vibration. Now they started making some. Now it's like out of steel. They're a little bit better. Now, if you do damage your prop, that does not mean that you have to throw that prop away. There are guys that specialize in repairing and rebuilding your propellers. Some of those aluminum props, now the aluminum props are a little bit cheaper, but they don't last as long. If you hit a stump or a rock, it'll start knocking chips out of it. That needs to be repaired. But you need to take it to somebody that is skilled and is real good with propellers, because not only do they have to rebuild that prop blade, they have to balance it, because you don't want any vibration at all. Because when that's vibrating, there's a shaft that runs up the middle of that outboard from the lower unit up to the drive wheel. If that's vibrating, that shaft is going to be vibrating inside of this little collet up there, and it's going to have severe damage to your outboard. So you want to be careful for your own human safety and to maintain your boat and make sure you've got it in good working order. Now, once the water starts going down, if you're fishing around a lot of standing timber, there's going to be stumps. I recommend that you have a good electronic that shows you what's underneath your boat, because a lot of those stumps over the years used to be standing trees, and when they raised the water level and flooded that out, a lot of those trees died out and decayed. Some of them are still sticking up out of the water that you can see from a distance off. Some of them, you're not going to see them until you hit them. And even though they've been in that water for years, it's still going to be solid enough. It can do some undue damage to your propeller. Boating can be a lot of fun, and I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to be aware of the fact that there are hazards out there. And there's going to be people. We've seen people driving cars and we get upset with road rage and stuff. Ramp rage is an issue too. There's going to be some people that you see every day driving cars that you and I might think, what in the world is that person doing behind this wheel? The same thing happens with boating. The majority of the people, when they're on the water, they're very cordial. There's some guys they're a little bit short on tempers. If they have trouble backing their boats up and down the ramp, they'll be hollering and screaming, and when summer gets here and it gets warmer, they lose sleep because they're going without sleep to go boating. Tempers are going to flare up. But you got to share that ramp. Everybody has got the same right to a public ramp as the next guy. So just bear in mind, watch the water level. Check your weather conditions. When you're going, if there's any storms, you might want to know when it's going to be there so you can make plans to be off the water. You can always put your boat back in. Boating can be a lot of fun. It can be a lot of hassle. It's what you make out of it. But just keep a level head. Keep your patience the best you can and have some good times on the water. So, folks, I want to thank you for letting us come into your house again today. Just to give you an idea, I'm reaching out to several different organizations. I've reached out to Ducks Unlimited. I reached out to Pheasants Forever. I reached out to a coyote hunting club called C4 Crew. That's a Cass County coyote guys. And I'm trying to cover the different things in my articles, and I'm inviting some of these representatives to come on to the podcast. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I'm trying to hit different areas for like the duck hunters, the raccoon hunters, coyote hunters, the deer hunters, squirrel hunters, rabbit hunters. If you know anybody that's in with an outdoor organization that may be interested, have them contact me. So, hey, folks, I want to thank you once again. Get out and have a good time. Catch some fish, have fun boating, take your kids with you. They enjoy it too. God bless you. We'll see you on the water.